Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining. Quick poll from the audience here. Raise your hand. Anybody work with creative types or artists within your business unit? Show of hands. Yeah, okay. A couple of you out there. Thank you. Well, I think you're in the right place. We're going to talk about some tools and a jointly developed solution that will help customers just like that. But first, my name's Mike Garner. I'm a manager of a solutions architect team within AWS.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heidi. I'm from Wacom, and I'm in charge of the Inc. division of Wacom, responsible for software and services at Wacom. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jack Jones. I'm a solutions architect here at Amazon Web Services, and I support Wacom.
Fantastic. Let's get started. So we're going to talk about some trends and pain points in the industry when dealing with the creative workforce. We're going to hear from Wacom about who they are and their journey with AWS. And what reInvent session isn't better with a product announcement. We'll have one of those too, so stay tuned. And then we'll get to share with you some architecture and some takeaways for next steps or how you can get started with this solution. So some of the trends. As content creators, you're competing for the attention of your audience, no doubt, right? And there is no better way to grab that attention than with a new drop. A new video, a new season or episode coming out, or game. And whether it's a game or a feature film, getting that fresh content to your customers quickly and cost effectively is certainly the name of the game here. So it used to be that the teams that were developing this were working from a studio location. That's not really the case, and there's a couple of drivers now that are changing that. First of all, there is massive demand for artists and creative workforce. Second, those artists prefer to have some say over how and when and from where they do their work. And then third, as your audience becomes a global audience, it becomes increasingly important for you to incorporate and include global voices in the creation of the stories that you're developing. All of that is leading customers to needing to support a distributed production team. And by distributed, I mean they're everywhere, working from everything, all sorts of different devices from all over the globe, right? And yet you've got to still support and enable the kind of collaboration and productivity that was found in that workplace. You know, whether that's desktops and streaming desktops or content workflows, those are all super important. So Laura Teclamarian from Netflix said, the global production is here to stay, and companies who don't lean into this, they're just going to be left behind. Because you're going to want to be authentic with your stories, you're going to want to have authentic creativity and imagination from around the world. So again, incorporating that global voice. But this isn't a simple transition. Your content, while your users are waiting for that next drop, you don't want it out there until you're ready for it to be out there. So security is key here. Also, latency is very important. Whether it's a file that we're waiting to upload, or maybe it's just a couple of extra milliseconds on the delay of a paintbrush on, an artist's work. Latency is sort of the silent killer here of productivity. You need to get tools out to your community with speed and efficiency, and then you also need to enable them to use any sort of device that they want, yet have consistency and ownership of the content. Maybe those are devices that they have brought with them. So this is where Amazon DCV comes in, and let me give you just a little bit of history here. So Amazon DCV, or Desktop Cloud Visualization, this is a high-performance remoting protocol. You can deliver desktops or stream applications from any cloud or any data center to any device over networks that have variable performance. So very important there. This is not a new product, however, and that's not what we're here to announce. That's coming later. This has been around for a little while. You might recognize the name. It was called NICE DCV. NICE was an Italian company that Amazon acquired in 2016. And since then, we've continued to invest in the product, iterate on it, and continue to release new features. So using Amazon DCV and EC2 instances, you can deliver these graphic-intensive applications to users anywhere in the world on any device, regardless of their network connection and performance, and eliminate the need to have those dedicated, expensive workstations. And with this, I want to bring Heidi back to the stage, and she'll tell us a little bit about Wacom and what it is they've built using DCV. Heidi.
All right. Thank you, Mike. I would like to start with talking about Wacom, who we are. So a question to all of you, who know Wacom already? Oh, everyone. Thank you. As you say, Wacom, we stand for pen. So we have been engaged always in developing pen technology. For 10 years about, we also added the ink technology. That's what I'm in charge of. It's about software, because we believe pen input experience lives with hardware and software. And to talk about Wacom, I want to also share a little bit the history of where we are and where we're coming from. And we were founded more than 40 years ago. We have our roots in Japan. There's still our headquarters. However, our business and our users are really global. So everywhere in the world, I can meet customers, users of Wacom technology, which makes me being very proud. And talking about Wacom as a name, so it's an artificial word. It was created by our founders, who were thinking, how can we bring technology to human beings that makes sense and create value for them? And wa is a Japanese word. It stands for harmony. Maybe you have heard about this, wa. And our founders at that time, they picked com for computer, because at that time their vision was bringing human and technology in harmony together. But over the time, we believe it evolved, because the com stands for communication with our users, with our partners. It also stands nowadays most important for us for the community, because whatever we do, we always want to make sure it delivers value and experience to the community. To explain what our community is believing in Wacom, I want to show in this video a little bit what they do actually with our technology and our products. And I think you can see here it's relevant for every one of us, because every day, every second, everywhere in the world, digital content is being created with a Wacom in most of the cases, no matter it's videos, movies, animations, games, even cars, fashion, clothes you wear, jewelries, sneakers. So everything around us is basically being created by some creative minds. And we are also here very, very proud that a lot of users are actually using our technology and products to create. And technology has a strong relevance to the media entertainment industry, because evolving emerging technologies is really allowing our creators, our user community, to create content that is more and more immersive and more of higher quality. And historically, these content needed also applications that are very specific and very high demanding. So that's why they all work with our products as an input device, most co-located in studios at the desk. But with the pandemic, we learned actually that there's a pain, because all the creators of the world, they were moving in a remote setup. And that's actually inspired us to create the technology called Wacom Bridge. So with the pandemic, with remote evolution, I know today more than 75 studios are already working either remote or hybrid. And there is a strong pain by the user when the pandemic happened and everyone was forced to work from home. Because they said, well, I cannot connect actually my products, my input device from my home, from my client, to the application that runs on cloud on the server. So at the end, we work with the creative community, work with studios, and come up with Wacom Bridge. And Wacom Bridge Essence is providing a local experience for artists, no matter whether they are 10 miles away or 10,000 miles away. So this technology is really a co-development with our creative community to make sure their needs and pains are being addressed, so they can continue creating all the stunning and immersive content as you have seen. And where Wacom Bridge is being used already today, and more also getting integrated in the workflow. And this is not just in animation industry, where actually Wacom Bridge was initiated, but more and more also in the range of building visual effects in the entire production pipeline, and more also to post-production, where a massive amount of content is needed to be composited and edited. And here we also work with the industry to make sure Wacom Bridge also help them to create a better experience and to improve the efficiency when they do their workflows. And to explain best how Wacom Bridge feels and works, I would like to also use a video from an artist who is actually using Wacom Bridge and creating some sketches on his screen. So you can see this artist is creating on the screen, and Wacom Bridge basically is a private channel that connects from our local tablet, which is connected to a PC, to the server application. And these applications, as I mentioned, are really complex with a lot of settings. So here, the artists really need to make sure that local settings also runs on host machine, while not losing any control of the Wacom device. And the last thing you see here is the ink line, because still with the internet, there is a little bit latency. For normal users, maybe it doesn't matter, but for creators, it counts. And that's why we added the technology called Wacom ink line, where we basically show, as you can see in the next sequence, where the artists are creating, and you see that there is actually a precursor running to make sure that the experience is as if he or she is working locally. So here you can see a link line a little bit more in detail. So you can see the flashing, and it basically pre-renders the stroke on the local device and make sure it is cover the latency. To summarize the Wacom Bridge workflow improvements, so number one, very important, apply the tablet, so the pen tablet driver settings from the client to host, no matter where I'm working on, and really including all the complex application-specific settings. And a lot of users are actually switching seamlessly between the local and the remote and host application. And for that, also Wacom Bridge allows this with this dedicated communication channel. And Wacom ink line, as I mentioned, it fills the gap really between the cursor and the host system. And the latency is really, and we did a survey with users, a couple of 100 users, and confirms that even a latency between 70 to 100 milliseconds is annoying, is perceived by the creative artist. That's why we believe we need something like Wacom ink line to really fill the gaps. So it really draws as if it is drawn locally. And the last point, which is important for those who are using also graphic-intensive applications on Windows machine. So Wacom Bridge supports Windows Ink and WinTap. So basically overlays the standard Windows Ink environment to make sure the features of Windows Ink that is made for handwriting can be extended to allow a graphical content creation workflow. As I mentioned before, so Wacom Bridge has been co-created with the community, but in our journey with AWS, we were also looking for a partner who is specialized in the remote computing environment in industry to help us finding these solutions. And we came to AWS because we believe and we recognize that AWS was already an innovator in the virtual production, already starting very rapidly in an accelerated way to equip studios and creative content creation industry with remote high-performance solutions. The second reason was when we approached AWS, we are a small company compared to AWS, but we were surprised and positively that there is a strong willingness to work with us to do a joint development innovation project. And this comes also with the end-to-end workflow, as I really enjoyed myself with my team to work with AWS, really starting from idea creation, listening to customers, to defining the commercial model, to also securing funding really to realize this project and this innovation. And last point, and I believe it's so important, at the end we also have very strong commitment from both AWS as well from Wacom to have this executive really team supporting the team on working on this project. And on next slide, I would like to share also during this journey, it was not linear. It was also coming with a lot of lessons learned. And here, number one, as I mentioned, we as a small Wacom, we are 1,200 people around the world. We underestimated the vast support that is available and resources in the different areas of AWS, because AWS has so many competencies that we were not aware of when we started the collaboration. So it was also for us really a discovery to see, okay, what's behind AWS, and at the end, very, very, very inspiring to understand how we can work together. Number two, it took time, because we went through really from in a very practical way to build prototypes, to have fast alpha, to work with customers, real users, to get their feedback, come back and really rethink the architecture, and always with the performance and experience in mind. So it was actually at the end of a process of 4 years. And to share anecdotal, actually we started with a very different approach with connecting directly to AppStream. And then it turned out, hey, with the browser-based experience, there is some limitation, and it was coming really from users in studios that made us to decide, hey, architecture, let's go with the DCV solution. And this was turning out to be the right path, and this was still a process where we have also these iterations with the customers. And number three, I want to mention also, despite talking about remote solutions, we also realized face-to-face meetings and workshops are so valuable to secure the project progress, to really help understanding each other much better, and to really see, okay, how can we find a solution together in a much more creative way when meeting together. And number four, and this was also a major learning, that the direct communication between the experts in the field, having the teams working directly from expert to expert and talking about what needs to be done and to solve these gaps in the experience that we're still facing over the development cycles, really help us to overcome several breakthroughs. And I can also confirm that both teams were really inspiring each other and challenging in a positive way each other to come up with the solution as we have today. And just to share one example, so during the work, during the prototypes, during the discussions, we realized, hey, why is there a gap in terms of latency? And that was one of examples where we decided together, and this is AWS team as well as Wacom, decided together to use, for example, the protocol buff as the communication package to further optimize the experience. So actually, with this decision as a team, we solved a couple of issues at once, and this was really exciting and remarkable moment. How does Wacom Bridge and Amazon DCV look like today? So to enable Wacom Bridge to be fully integrated in the Amazon DCV environment, we actually work on a couple of requirements to really bring the solution as this today together. And number one, we decided, again, it was always a teamwork together, decided to develop with the Amazon DCV team through the extension SDK. And we were very happy that AWS really committed to support us to work together on implementing the virtual channel API and updating the geometric API to support the requirements coming from our product interface to be part of the extension SDK today. And last, the protocol buff was really a decision that breaks through, and it was now today used within the extension SDK for data packages transfer that really upgrades the experience. With this, I would like to hand over to Jack, and Jack has been a valuable partner with us working on the development. Thanks, you, Jack.
Heidi. So I'm going to talk about the integration between Wacom Bridge and AWS end user compute. And really, what we start at is workforce enablement. And the great thing about Wacom Compute, or Wacom Bridge and AWS end user compute, is it can meet an art studio or creative studio where they're at. And we start out this lower left quadrant with individual workstations. And some organizations will develop a solution for their artists where you have to come into the art studio, we'll configure your workstation, we'll hand it to you, and this will be your workstation that you work on in the art studio. Other organizations will let artists be able to use their own devices as well. Some organizations have developed on-premise VDI solutions, which maybe they've moved to a colo location, or they have their own data center where they're deploying their VDI solution. They're starting to take advantage of some of the security hardening. They're centralizing their fleet management and allowing artists to start remoting in from wherever they're working. Where this really starts to get interesting is a do-it-yourself cloud VDI solution on AWS. And with Wacom Bridge being developed with the extension SDK of Amazon DCV, we now can start to take advantage of the security, reliability, and vast network support within AWS. And even farther up and to the right with Amazon AppStream, this is a managed service which really takes that undifferentiated heavy lifting of managing that capacity planning away from the IT department of that art studio. And I really want to take a second and talk about the infrastructure management challenges within the individual workstation and on-premise VDI solution. And we're not only talking about procuring and managing these graphic-intensive hardware and software applications that these artists need to use, but you're required dedicated personnel or resources that are going to maintain these solutions and maintain this co-location or data center or each individual workstation. We also have struggles with artists being able to collaborate in this area across the world. If they're working on individual workstations, we're talking about how do we do our file shares, how do we secure our IP, and things like that. As we move up and to the right, we have our do-it-yourself cloud solution and the on-premise VDI. And you can see that the VDI on-premise solution gets a double whammy with the infrastructure management and the capacity planning. You're still having those resources being managed by your IT department. And where that, as I said earlier, gets interesting, as you move to AWS, you start handing those responsibilities over to AWS. You still have to have expertise with capacity planning and management of your control plane and storage administration, but you're still starting to take benefits from the cloud with the do-it-yourself cloud VDI. And this is a self-managed architecture with Wacom Bridge integrated with Amazon DCV on EC2. So how this works is Wacom Bridge is installed on the user's workstation, or this could be a laptop, and the Wacom Bridge driver is also installed on the server fleet that has the Amazon DCV server. And this opens up the PEN data connection so that it can directly ship between the local environment and the remote environment. And this allows you to get artists all around the world. You can deploy into any AWS region that supports EC2, put your Amazon DCV software within the server. You can use the streaming gateway to start consolidating your session management as well. And this brings your workstations closer to your file share collaboration or your license servers, your databases, and your other workloads that sit in the cloud. And once an artist actually gets done with their work and they need to push that work off to, say, a render farm, this allows you to have those workstations that are close to those other resources that are needed in your art studio. I also wanted to talk about fully managed services with AppStream 2.0. And this is where I see a really big benefit for artists and interacting with artists directly is Amazon AppStream 2.0 with Wacom Bridge really takes the undifferentiated heavy lifting from the IT department and allows them to scale at a pace of agility where they can hire anywhere that they need to, spin up artist workstations across the world, and not have to have as much artist configuration per workstation. And I want to show you what I mean by that. You can see that this is a similar architecture, but the unique thing about Amazon AppStream 2.0 and Wacom Bridge is Wacom Bridge will save the artist pen and gesture settings, and Amazon AppStream will also save the application settings. So now you're getting this unique situation where you can have an ephemeral environment, which wasn't possible before, and you can have an artist set up shop in their home, and you can have just deploy an image, and they can have their workstation directly with their graphics, their application settings, and their pen and gesture settings directly there. They can also connect directly through the streaming gateway with Amazon AppStream, where AWS is taking the responsibility away from that capacity management, and IT administrations or IT folks at the at art studios don't have to worry about the capacity planning anymore. That is given over to AppStream, and we just configure how you want to scale. And I want to share how managed makes a difference as well. You can see that on-premise VDI, you have to take care of the whole stack. You're doing you're racking and stacking. You're having to provide the power, and you're having to do all the images and all the configurations for your artists. With the DIY Cloud VDI, you have that taken away by AWS a little bit more. But as you move to AppStream, you really only have to manage with the image management and your directory services and policies. So you're getting a lot of advantage taking, allowing AWS to manage that for you. With virtual workstations in an DIY cloud or using AppStream, AWS provides a vast array of EC2 instances to choose from. And specifically, we're talking about GPU instances because these are graphics-intensive workloads. And when you use something like AppStream or EC2, you can choose the level and performance that you need from AWS and whatever your artist needs, whether they're working on that intensive application such as Autodesk Maya. Also with AWS, you have access to the global infrastructure, which means you have access to artists all around the world, and you can deploy your VDI solution right where your artists are. And this makes a greater experience for any art studio that's looking to expand their talent and, as we said earlier, bring stories to where they're being told. And with that, I'd like to hand it back to Heidi and discuss the Wacom and AWS timeline.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. So, talk about the timeline. So, with Wacom with AWS, we have been starting actually at this event, our partnership back in 2021. So, at that time, I still remember we met even with the executive team and decided, okay, that's something we will invest both sides and go for it. And in 2012, 22, the engineering co-development early of the year started, And we started building alphas, put it in front of customers, also global customers connected to the global aspect of the solution. And this went through really throughout today. So 2023, we launched the private beta together. And in 2024, earlier this year, we also launched a public beta where all the studios can apply. And there are several ones globally testing and using Wacom Bridge already in their daily workflows. And today, I'm actually very happy to have the opportunity here at re:Invent to share. Just today, we announced also the general availability. We completed all the tests, incorporated all the feedback. So starting from today, you can get, as in the production environment, access to Wacom Bridge. And the good news is also to share, we have committed to give this to you, to our customers, at no cost, to Amazon DCV customers and also AppStream 2.0 customers until January 15, 2016, allowing you really to fully integrate and use the Wacom Bridge within Amazon DCV or AppStream in your solution. So scan this to get started. And our team is also based locally, globally. So whatever there is a demand, we can of course facilitate also testing for actual counts to experience that. What's available today with the GA? So we have launched with Amazon DCV, the Windows client, the Windows server, but also the Amazon AppStream 2.0. And compatible device, you can see the Cintiq Pro series, so all the up-to-date product that is in use today. Cintiq Pros are pen displays, really larger ones for professional content production. Intuos Pro are the lineups. These are pen tablets without the display, which is mostly used in VFX, but also in post-production. Cintiq 1622, these are displays, pen displays, larger sizes that are used especially in education. And the Moving, which I will show here, is a brand new product. I can lift it with 2 fingers. So that's our newest professional pen display, which also talking about remote, coming with a super, super light portable form factor at professional pen experience and color accuracy. So what's the future of Wacom Bridge? Because we will not stop here together. So we are receiving feedback from users and from customers, from studios, and so talking about also already actively about new OS client support and new OS server support, really to fit into the different requirements of the studio environments. And the Inkline, as you show, we're also looking how can this be even more upgraded in terms of user experience, so it even feels even more natural, more immersive when artists are drawing on the screen. So this concludes my part, sharing about Wacom Bridge. And again, here's the QR code to get started. And with this, I would like to invite Jack and also Mike come to the stage. And we want to share what's the next step.
Awesome. So we have some other sessions that we recommend that you attend if you're here tomorrow at re:Invent. NHL Unlocked with live cloud production. We have a build a scalable cross-platform multiplayer game with backend with AWS, and optimize your virtual desktop performance with UC201. And as this is a new to AWS session, I always recommend getting started with AWS budgets. So there's a workshop with NTA312. And here's a link, QR codes for AWS training and certification and getting started with Amazon DCV. And I'd like to thank you all for coming. We will be off over here to take any questions for you, and we'll also have a demo for Wacom Bridge. So please come join us, and thanks.
Thank you.